Penzo, and I'm the co-founder and chief executive of Frontiers Conferences. I would like to give you a warm welcome to our new episode of the future of well-being. Today, we're going to focus on the future of talent management. What we're trying to do is to build a global platform for well-being. It's based on our main event, Frontiers Next Wellbeing, our podcast, the verticals, episodes such as this one, and the community of people and speakers and advisors that rotates around Frontiers Wellbeing. What we're doing is that we want to keep the pace. So the first episode was aired in March, on the 18th of March, again on the topic of corporate well-being. Today we're going to deep dive with our guests, specialists on the topic of Gen Z and how to manage the rebels in the work environment. As for every Frontiers event, recordings will be available. We'll be prioritizing you, the people that are watching us, that have registered a ticket. So it's going to be available exclusively to you. And then after a week, will be available for the general public. Now, for people like us, we created a company to run events based on the experience for the people, experience for the attendees, experience for the speakers. And now a global pandemic has forced us in a studio to be with you behind the screen. But what we're trying to do starting today is to bring the experience back. Now, we kick off every event we run with a live show of our resident artists, Korinami and Joe Ferrari. And today, I brought for you a little bit of this. So in studio with me, there's Korinami. Korinami is a musician, electronic musician and a DJ. And today what he's going to do is a live performance on the original soundtrack of Frontiers Next Wellbeing. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Korinami. And this was Korinami. What a show, guys. From here, it was terrific. And I would be glad to hear the feedback. How was it from your side of the screen? Now, back to us. People managers are about to face the perfect storm. From one side, there is a global pandemic. Then in the worst case scenario, forced their employees at home. And in the best case scenario, have many, many friends who their employers will need to force them to move their backs back from Fuerteventura. So that's quite a challenge. On the other side, there's an entirely new generation, not just of digital natives, but of digital nomads. Young people who are used to use and abuse digital tools in ways that organizations are completely unprepared to accept. And this is what we want to discover today. And it's time for me to kick the evening off and welcome on stage, better said on screen, my friend, advisor of Frontiers Next, Nana Bit-Avragim. Welcome, Nana.
Thank you so much, Matteo. It's absolutely great pleasure to be with all of you here. I am, of course, not a specialist in HR or talent management. I'm doctorpreneur, scientist, medical doctor, and entrepreneur. But the topic of leadership, hiring, and especially firing, and current situation is definitely absolutely important for each of us. So I can't promise that we will have all answers on your questions, but what I can promise, we will try to inspire you, to give you some ideas, to introduce you to fantastic people. And we have absolutely amazing, outstanding lineup of speakers, and take you in this journey and open the forum for the discussions.
I'm super curious, Nana, to hear what your guests are going to say.
Yes.
But it's time for me to disappear, and I'll be back after your conversation.
Absolutely. So I would like to start off with the introduction of our speakers, and we have 3 speakers for tonight, and please make your cozy, grab your glass of wine or tea, and just relax and enjoy. The first speaker is Lara Cattan. Lara is a high performance and strategic execution coach with the rich experience in the corporate world, having worked in multinational organizations in change management and transformation. Then she stepped out of the corporate world to find her own company, Spark One. Lara used to say, the best gift you can give yourself is to avoid people with drama, gossip, and stress, and spend more time with people who love you, who support you. Lara lives in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and she joins us from sunny Middle East. Welcome to our live talk, Lara. What should we know about you but couldn't find on the internet?
Thank you, Nana, for this great introduction. Well, it depends on which media channel you go to, but on Instagram, I'm quite vocal about how much I love my cats. Something you don't know about me, I really spend most of my day in my yoga pants and t-shirts and like a bun and like my cat's around, literally working. One more thing is I do value a lot mystical and spiritual experiences. I do feel like the next level of human evolution and let's say next level of advancement in society and organizations, in even us, the way we deal with each other, it comes from what we call like spiritual intelligence. And I think this is gonna be the next level of intelligence out there. So I'm very big on that, and I really also I like to integrate that in my work as well.
Awesome. That sounds really, really inspiring. Let me please introduce you another speaker, another Matteo. So Matteo Rizzi. Matteo is a seasoned fintech entrepreneur, investor, founder, co-founder of several companies such as SwiftCommunity.net, and so on and so on. He is also author of several books such as FinTech Revolution and Talents and Rebels. He knows how to bridge traditional banking with emerging technologies because he understands both. An interesting fact about Matteo, he speaks and conducts businesses in 5 languages: Italian, French, Spanish, English, Portuguese. So Matteo joins us now from Portugal, also sunny Portugal, I hope. And Matteo, what fascinates you most these crazy days?
Well, there is little to be fascinated in this pandemic world, but at the same time, what fascinates me is how some of the entrepreneurs that I deal with, specifically, you didn't mention it, but I'm mainly an investor. That's half of my time, and I'm an impact investor in Africa. And what fascinates me is how certain of the entrepreneurs I daily talk with, how their resilience made them pivoting their own ideas that were pretty much at the beginning of their journey, and pivoted in a way that made them stronger. So they became more than resilient, they became anti-fragile. That's what fascinates me.
Yeah, this is a really, really strong vision and really absolutely interesting. We have another speaker. She's not here. It's Amelie Bachert. She's 19 years old teenager, and I allow to open up her age, who lives her dream to become a fashion journalist. She's a former assistant and intern of FemaleOneZero platform. This is the online magazine for diversity and matchmaking platform for entrepreneurs and builders who support and look for more inclusion and diversity. Amelie lives in Munich, Germany. She's currently at work and will join us in the next 30 minutes. Let's start discussing this fantastic topic. So I would start with you, Matteo. You wrote a fantastic book. It's very inspirational. In your book, you state that not all rebels are genius. So why an organization would need and probably nurture a rebel? And who is the rebel in the current organization?
So I think we need to put this question a bit in a context, because my book is fantastic, is marvelous, but if you haven't read it, you don't know what we're talking about, right? So the book is, the title is Talent and Rebels, and the subtitle is called Dealing with Corporate Misfits. So let's agree, first of all, who a misfit is. And a misfit is someone that doesn't fit into the mold of an organization. He or she is an innovator, and he or she is probably the best chance that that corporate has to deal with an innovation that is not incremental, but is rather disruptive or more radical. In order to deal with this type of innovation, of course, if you keep hiring the same people, you're just going to do a little bit better what you do already. But if you want to make sure that you tackle what your business or company doesn't do yet, or which technology or third parties or startup or event can come and disrupt your business and sort of flip it, put it in a way that is almost unrecognizable, you need to accept that the type of talent that can deal with it are the rebels type. Now, you actually mentioned that sentence about not all rebels are geniuses, or a rebel is not a genius. These two things has nothing to do, in the sense that something that is very common is to, I call it stigmatize this type of people and put them in a zoo, like in a zoo inside of a corporation, as if they were either superheroes or the guys with the piercing and tattoos and the odd guys. They're not odd. The idea is they are a type of resource that think and links businesses in a way that is very different from what other people do. And they are very complementary with the other resources of the company. And the secret of how to deal with rebels is make sure that they are very well connected with the rest of the company. And I will finish by saying that the most challenging thing about rebels is not to confuse rebels with noisemakers. Some of them are just dissenters by definition, without the necessary grain of salt that is going to be useful for your business. So in that sentence, now there is a little bit of genius in every rebel, but it's not a genius. It's their own way to connect different concepts that apparently have very little to do. But over time, they are going to represent a way for your company to survive. That's the thesis of the book.
Do you think the distinguishing on rebels and genius can be addressed in every and any kind of fields of technology or social entrepreneurship? So we can see those kind of rebels and genius across the all fields of our life.
That is a definite yes. So when you look at the story of the big failures of this world, Blockbuster or Blockbuster and Netflix, or Kodak and the digital camera, or any big failure that couldn't cope with disruptive innovation, and is actually across the board. I used to work for Swift. Swift is a cooperative. They deal with high value payments. It's a cooperative with over, I believe, it's 7,000 or 8,000 members, which are all financial institutions. And they have over 100,000 of network points across the globe. They deal with high value payments. People don't know it usually, but when you do the big code or the Swift code, the Swift is actually a cooperative. It's a business.
Right.
And within Swift, we created a cell that dealt with fintech innovation, so financial services innovation, back at the time where, talking about digital banks or digital lending or cryptocurrency or any of the innovation aspects of the fintech was really pioneer. Okay, banks were looking at you like, what the hell are these guys talking about, right? But the truth is that Swift had most of today's unicorn passing through that cell of innovation. I'm talking TransferWise, Revolut, Mambu, all these big guys. Probably amongst the four of us, there is at least one of us who has an account in a digital bank. If it's not TransferWise, it's Revolut. If it's not Revolut, it's number 26. 10 years ago, none of this existed. Yeah. Swift discovered in his journey most of these guys. So the reason why I personally left Swift is because I wanted to build a fund able to invest in these guys. And today we would have written a completely different story, because Swift would be sitting in the largest fintech fund of the planet. It didn't happen. Why? Because it was a failure, which was my failure, in trying to sell an idea that was really disruptive in an environment where the tension didn't allow to do so.
Traditional.
So I do an example. The book talks about my own experience as a disruptor in the financial services, but I'm interviewing a bit more than a dozen of people from different backgrounds, because this type of disruptive innovation approach is for sure across businesses. It's just not about financial services only.
Absolutely. I could confirm that from the health tech and biotech. So, and then a lot of examples. But this interesting discussion brings me to another case, and in the case of Google, when 2017, Google announced Google for Jobs platform. The reasoning was that there is a problem when the people can't find the jobs. So, and the current pandemic actually even pronounced this problem and brought it more profoundly. And I think that this problem actually not is the problem of not finding the job. The problem is a different thing, is in the getting hired. So Lara, why the most qualified candidates may not be the right candidates, and why is it so difficult to get hired instead of to find the job?
Okay.
What do you think?
So it has a lot of reasons, but I think the most qualified candidates. So when we say the most qualified, we were talking about like the qualifications, their experience, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes people overlook their values or their tendencies. Like someone who has a value for freedom, for autonomy, for, let's say, flexibility, all of that stuff will not work in an organization that is more like authoritarian, that is more like, formed in a different way, more about office politics or managing up or all of that stuff. So, and also a person who values change, or who's a kind of like someone who's like into like fast implementation, will also not work well in an organization where it's incredibly slow to adopt ideas, and vice versa. Like it could be either way. Also, communication style can be completely different. Like I've seen people who are really qualified, they're doing great job. Their only issue were considered as misfit because of their communication style is not matching the communication style of the organization. Where
So
one part.
The rebel,
one part,
that example.
Yeah, it could be a rebel or it could be someone else. One party could be really fast. They want just like the end result, the outcome. And someone is more like relationship based. And sometimes when people are in an organization are used to one type of style of communication or anything, when someone new comes in with a different style of communication, they consider that person as a misfit, although that person could be, like in the right qualification, or even like their communication style could be even more effective than the organization's effective communication style. So that's on the on that side. Also, I think the problem of people finding jobs but not getting hired during this pandemic is, I think that there's a bit of distortion in the market. Because what we're seeing is that there's a lot of phantom jobs that being posted out there. For some reason, companies are really posting some phantom jobs. I think people are scouting for talents. They keep jobs open, jobs of ads open for, just scouting talent, or because they're lazy to take it off. But I also feel like there's a very, the hiring decision is very slowed right now because of the concerns, of the risk, of like what's going to happen next, So a lot of decisions are being on hold when it comes to hiring.
Fantastic. Following up on this hiring talents, I would love to quote the Adam Grant, who said, in hiring, it might be the time to get right of experience requirements. Past experience rarely predicts future performance. So I think that what matters is the current motivation and the ability of how well people can learn to do a job, not how long they already done it before. And actually, it's also echoes what Matteo said at the beginning. So the more and more talents and in organizations, let's say rebels, do not work just for money. They work for passion, for great motivation. Matteo, what do you think? How to help the organization discovering and feeling the passion of the best motivated employees? How would it be possible to keep them motivated on doing the best what they can do, instead of, to increase the performance, instead of just to doing job, to enjoy and bring more value?
So to start with, this is a problem that goes beyond the the theme of the rebels, right? So every single company on earth right now is trying to sort of retain the best talents, and more so during and after the pandemic, because there is this sort of a digital leapfrog that imposed, especially on old-fashioned companies, a way to deliver their services and content they might have a plan to digitize most of their business, but they had to do it 10 times faster because of the pandemic. That required two things. One, to be attractive for the talents that they didn't have, and two, make sure that the guys that were, amongst the few who could actually make the change, they stayed. So again, that goes way beyond, dealing with the rebels. And I think that the way you can retain your best talent is start by accepting that you might not have all the intelligence you need inside and among the top 20 people of the company. So, actually, the very often it doesn't matter. People are, there is a misconception or a misunderstanding that just because you're higher in hierarchy, in a company, you're the one with the best idea, so you're unable to judge. You might be simply someone who has been around for a lot, for longer than others, but you might not know, how an entrepreneur thinks, or you might not know what the best way to deal with a startup. I give you an example. So I co-founded a company called FTS Group, which is an innovation consulting company that does corporate innovation program. Basically, we teach large companies how to deal with startups, okay? And the problem zero of this job is making these guys understand who is an entrepreneur and what is it, what is he or she, and how does he or she think? Because everyone states that, of course, we work with entrepreneurs, we work with startups, we work with external ideas, we are keen in building solutions together. And then you have the people that are supposed to interact with these guys. They have no idea how an entrepreneur even sort of gets motivated, what he or she thinks. And that's like the really beginning of this journey for them. So that's like the step zero. And then about the retaining talent, you need to understand what the different triggers of the people are. Because as I said, rebels are really about, meaning, passion, not hierarchy, not money, relevance of the business, working together with similar, with people who are similar to them. And each human being has his or her own triggers, And today, I believe that, especially in large organizations, is a little bit like one size fits all as far as HR is concerned, which is a very common mistake.
Absolutely agree, totally agree. And instead of looking on diversity and different other metrics, we have to actually provide the employees with the experience, and that would be another probably opportunity to keep the best talents in an organization. However, I read recently one interesting sentence. I don't remember where, just came around, and that states that organizations must see diversity and inclusion as dance partners, not synonyms. So, and I'm a huge supporter of diversity, and so I would love also to raise this topic also in our discussion. Matteo, the number of women entrepreneurs are growing, but still we have, and this is, I would love to address it to you as an entrepreneur as well as investor. Still, what is your view, how the gender gap, how we can reduce this gender gap in fintech? We used to speak nowadays a lot about this, but it's still, I think the problem is there, and we need a lot and more and alternative solutions for that. How do you see that? The gender gap in fintech?
So to start with, as an investor, the experience is that whenever there is a female founder involved in a startup, we have, in general, much more confidence for the startup to succeed. This is not something that we are inventing, that I'm inventing. It is proven by the numbers. So actually balancing the gender gap in the founders is super important. And actually, another initiative that I founded a couple of years ago is called timepledge.org. And Time Pledge is a not-for-profit organization that coaches and mentors African entrepreneurs for free. Actually, what we are noticing is that there are a lot of ecosystems initiatives that are working towards teaching entrepreneurship to women, because in most of the African countries, they are the ones sustaining their families, and they also way more reliable. Statistically speaking, if you take 100 loans to women and 100 loans to men, the women's one are more likely to return the money, in a 2-digit sort of a superior percentage. Okay, so it is there is no comparison how these two groups will react. I am nobody to teach anybody how to fill a gender gap. I think that everyone has to work within its own possibilities. And as far as we are concerned, as an impact fund, we are actually working towards coaching and mentoring and funding initiatives that are empowering women entrepreneurs. And second, we look for a very specific, with a very specific eye, startups who have female founders, because usually they are the ones that are much more ready to actually give back to their community once they become successful.
Yes, absolutely agree. I'm mentoring 2 startups and several startups, and 2 of them are founded by fantastic women, and I see that very clear. And I would like to hear also your opinion, Lara, on that. You as executive coach, you definitely also helps a lot of your clients to be more prepared in the leadership positions. And do you see more women in leadership coming to you with the questions? And then maybe another side of that, we used to currently use a lot of technology, especially in HR, in the screening. Do you think that technology can help? I'm skeptical, because I don't believe these algorithms can actually open up the old talents, what we see in the candidates when we talk to each of the individual person. But first, probably with the women leadership and your experience on that.
Okay, so I want to say something before I get to the women leadership. What Matteo said is very interesting because considering what's really happening in the world, like usually female founders get like less funding, like they get around 2% funding versus if you have like only male founders, they get around, there's like a chance of getting them like 80% funding. So I think what he's doing and the initiatives he's doing is kind of interesting. And I think the numbers that he gave, like that women founders are actually more performing, should be more highlighted, because I think what's happening in the world is that women do not see enough role models, whether in the entrepreneurship world or in the like leadership of companies. They don't see enough role models. And number two, I believe like there's a lot of things related to sponsorship and coaching of women. at the end of the day, it's all in our head, right? And even and I'm a big advocate that the system needs to be there. Like, you have to have the right laws, you have to have the right system, but we also know that systems can be kind of overlooked and not implemented, right? And it could look good, like you can see people, the women in leadership, but you don't see them having the same responsibilities, or they are heard, or they are kind of like their opinions being considered as much as their male counterparts. So you could implement it from an external perspective, but is it really being implemented in a very, like, is it in the fabric of the organization? Is it really embedded in the organization, or is it just fluff? And I think a lot of situations, it could be just fluff. Women in leadership numbers are not that great. I think it's clear, like 30% of women on board in the Fortune 500 companies are 30% women are on board of Fortune 500 companies. So the rest of the world is much less. Middle East is much less than that, for sure. Again, what could be done? This is a very complex situation. And I think a lot of it is to do with the internal work. Like, women have to, first of all, believe in themselves, believe in their capabilities. They have to kind of like see the potential of themselves. And that has to do a lot with inner work of women. There has to be a lot of unbiased training, the unconscious bias training in companies, to kind of like explain to people what kind of unconscious biases that they can do, whether in hiring, whether in the promoting, whether in performance management, whether the way they even communicate, or the way they the kind of responsibility that they give women. All of that needs to be tackled. I think a lot of it as well is that women can be intimidated by higher positions because it could be very much male dominated, or it could be that they feel that the responsibilities and they won't have like enough like work-life balance. And for women, we know that in most cases, I cannot generalize, again, each person has a difference, but women do value work-life balance in general. And the workplace has to cater for work-life balance, has to cater for flexibility, has to cater for that kind of flexibility and thinking in order to attract more women in leadership. And sponsorship is incredibly important. Women have to be mentored throughout in different parts of their career, because some women can attribute success to communication, other women attribute success to qualifications, but in reality, it's about if you have the encouragement, the sponsorship, that will make a whole lot of difference in your career. And I don't see that much happening for women. And what's sad is that it's not only happening, it's not just happening from because like men are not giving enough sponsorship for women. What we're seeing is that women sometimes create obstacles for other women in the workplace. What is seen as, in generally, when you self-promote yourself as a man in the workplace, that's considered as a plus. People know about your contributions. You are in control of other people's perceptions of yourself. Women, when they self-promote, they kind of it has a negative connotation, and for them, like a lot of people consider women that they should be modest culturally, and that bias is not just it's not just it's not like a male bias. It's a women to women kind of bias even. So
So, what you, Matteo, and you, Lara, are saying sounds very true, but to me, it seems it isn't. Like if I look in the real world, and if I look at the career that C-level executives have done, they were not corporate rebels. They were talent probably, but they were not rebels. And if I look at the women founders and women CEOs, it's such a small number which disappears compared to men. So what you say, it's completely logic and it sounds perfect to me. But why don't I see it outside? Why don't I see it in the reality I can touch?
Because you're beside the point, Matteo. because you're assuming that careers is what interests rebels. I'm a rebel. I don't give a shit. propose me to become the CEO of a bank, and I say I don't want to. That means being a career, right? So I actually left at Swift a job with a career. So I left it when I was an executive, the big car and the pension benefit, and I quit it because I thought I wasn't relevant. So at least for the part that is saying, now the women part, I'll let Lara answer. She's more prepared than me. But if you're asking why I don't see rebels, making a career, I say because I don't care.
I completely agree with you, Matteo, on this because, and I say completely because it sounds correct. I mean, some rebels might not want a career. Some others maybe don't consider themselves rebels per se, but they are rebels and they do want a career, right? I'm just saying that it's very frequent for me that rebels will build their career with their own company.
It's because the system does not. The system does not cater for rebels.
They want
the
to push
system does not
out
cater.
of the system.
Yeah, in fact, rebels are, and I'm sure Matteo knows more than me about this, but from my perspective and what I know is that, and what I see a lot happening is that rebels are rule breakers. The system, the society, organizations, they value conformity. They don't value rule breaking. And if you're a rebel, even though that you can add value by rule breaking, in most cases, they see you as a threat or, again, a misfit in the organization, and you are being pushed out very early on in your career. And this is the issue, is that if organizations want to innovate at a much faster rate or to keep up with what's happening in the market, they need to think like entrepreneurs a little bit, and they need to kind of like absorb or accept or create space for those rebels to kind of like be creative and add value. And that's the problem.
This is exactly the point. I mean, organizations do need rebels, but the way they have conducted their business till now, it's built in a way they push the rebels out. And I believe this is what our guests, our attendees at home are trying to solve.
Absolutely.
Because it's a misfit of values. It's a misfit of values.
And it's
a good exception, what could be when the rebel is also the CEO of the organization.
Mm.
And basically he or she builds the organization to the image of a rebel. So Elon Musk is a good example.
Elon Musk is a good example. Let's take another one. Let's take Steve Jobs, right? I think Steve Jobs is a good example because he was born as a rebel, but fast forward to the later stage of his tenure at Apple, do you think he was still a rebel? Or he was still just a corporate giant, just a billionaire running his business?
So it's interesting that you're asking exactly this question because couple of years ago, I was in Budapest, and I was very happy because someone else filled up this huge conference room for me, and it was Steve Wozniak. So I was very happy to come before him because all of a sudden people came to see him, but I actually saw the Talent and Rebels presentation before, which is very happy. He gave me this amazing, Eros Ramazzotti sort of, audience, amazing. And then a little, so Steve is a rebel, okay? Co-founder of Apple. He ran away from the Apple fortune. He was the guy behind the scene making the products, okay? And Steve Jobs was the face of it. I think that the way Steve saw the business was always the rebel vision. But let's talk if you talk about someone who's still alive, so we can all sort of judge for what we can witness every day. I think Elon Musk is still a rebel. Absolutely. When you look at how different businesses he touch, how the way he talks, the way he pay attention to, the way he doesn't care how, he can move, a couple of billions in a cryptocurrencies because he does a tweet. I mean, he's between a rebel and a fool, somehow. So is he still a rebel? And he's, at the top of $100 billion company. So are the two things completely irreconcilable? Maybe not.
I think we are getting into that with the new generation, and it's coming. The new generation completely designed for rebels, and at that, what is my view on Generation Z? But actually, just put my 2 cents in this fantastic, a very rich discussion. I think the whole design of the systems where we live is not actually allows, enable those organizations to work in the maximum capacity, doesn't allow rebels to become a standard kind of like employees. So I think we can take it more and deeper, but I would love to welcome Amelie, who just joined our fantastic live call. Hello, Amelie Bachert.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I introduced you previously in a few words, but maybe you can describe yourself in a few words, and maybe what are the most important 3 things you value in your life? 19 years old.
Yeah. If I would describe myself in one word, I would say creative, because I like everything that's extraordinary and I hate to be like normal and boring. And 3 things I value the most in my life are the sun, because I just looked outside the window and was so happy about the sun. Then my friends, and passion for every person who has a passion.
It sounds like we just had a fantastic discussion on rebels and the talents. I hope you just caught it a few minutes ago, and then you heard that Matteo just described that. And I believe that Gen Z, not just the native and digital native, and they have a specific relationship with technology and almost organic. But Gen Z is actually a generation of rebels. In fact, 75% of Gen Z say that there are ways of getting good education. There is other ways of getting good education, not necessarily getting into the college or universities. So it's already as a different view on the current situation in life. So how to bridge the gaps in organizations, in traditional organizations, which we still live, having the senior leadership, and then coming a lot of employees and millennials and Gen Z, how to close this gap, how to find the right way to collaborate. And especially, I would be interested to hear your opinion about how retain Gen Z in organizations.
Yeah, that's a difficult question, because I know there's always a little bit of misunderstanding between the senior leaders and Gen Settlers, I think, because there are many prejudices that say that Gen Settlers are like, they spend most of their time in the virtual world, and because of that they are slower to grow up. And I think that's not fair, because in some companies the senior leaders are used to think that Gen Settlers they don't like to work for you, they are not loyal. After work they want to think about the problems they have in the office, and I think that's wrong. I think what's most important to bridge this gap is a good way of working together. Like the Gen Settlers have to accept that they sometimes need a push from their senior leader, and they maybe need the advice and to accept this. But in the other way around, I think it's really important that the senior leader is open for new ideas and for a change, for innovation in general, because it's true, Gen Zers have a really different lifestyle than older senior leaders.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's hard to find this bridge, but the most important thing is this working together.
Fantastic. I'm following the watch, and I've seen that we have still a few minutes left. So getting most of this fantastic conversation, I would like also to give an opportunity to have a little fun. And I prepared like a kind of blitz questions for Matteo and Lara. Just answer, give you a gut feeling and just answer spontaneously. Maybe it's a very stupid questions, but it will probably give us a little bit more fun, and then feel ourselves real like humans and rebels in that way. So Matteo, would you like to be mentored by senior women?
Actually, I have already a couple. I have already a couple of mentors who are very successful African women. I consider one of my main mentors, Omobola Johnson. Omobola Johnson is a former minister of ICT of Nigeria. She is now one of the most respected venture funds. She's not much older than me. By the way, you know, I'm 51. If a mentor has to be much older than me, you know, it will be on a grave. So I have to, the mentors are more or less people that are in between, you know, my age and 10 years older, right? So,
this is exactly what
Amelie
said, because the actually leadership doesn't mean, doesn't connect in regards to the age. It could be much younger.
Indeed, when Amelie was talking, I actually Googled what Gen Z means, and I discovered that both of my kids are actually Gen Zers, and I agree that the most complicated thing today is the fact that the school has evolved much slower than the world. Is as simple as that.
Yeah.
So and it depends. It depends where, you know, which context you're talking. If you're lucky and you are, you know, in an ecosystem that is a bit more evolved or open, you might have the choice, or you might be given the instruments to make a choice. If you are in other countries, there's still one size fits all, and more often than not is the wrong size fit all. So that's the main challenge.
Nana,
and
2 more minutes for your panel.
Excuse me?
2 more minutes for you guys.
Exactly. So actually, it's supposed to be a very short question. I have just a very short question, a few questions to Lara. Lamborghini or Ferrari, Lara?
Why Nana? Ferrari. Ferrari is more classy.
So as the rebels, yes or no, what? Or nothing?
Ferrari.
Okay. So Matteo, pizza or la bischetta? Bistecca.
Bistecca or bruschetta?
Oh, fantastic. And the last, maybe for Matteo.
No, he was asking, are you, Nana, you wanting to choose between pizza or bruschetta or pizza and bistecca?
No, pizza and bistecca.
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 You know, next time ask a protein or carbohydrate. Protein.
And the very last one. So Lara and Matteo, please finish this sentence. HR is the art, science, and the practice of caring for. Art, science, and the practice of caring for
people.
What do you think? Maybe Amelie.
Caring for people, for employees, for actually the welfare of the company, because the welfare of the company lies in the hands of employees.
Yes, Captain Obvious, people, no?
Yeah, fantastic. So that actually was a fantastic discussion. I can't believe just 1 hour, like a minute. Please, let's thank Lara Cattan, Matteo Rizzi, Amelie Bachert, and my word to you, Matteo. Maybe we have some.
And thanks to you, Nana. Thanks to Matteo, Lara, Amelie. Thanks everybody for being with us. Now, as I was saying, we're gonna bring this kind of episodes, this kind of content every month to the conference. So we're gonna have another one before the conference on 19 and 20 of May. And then we will keep going after the conference. Now, if I can have my slide, please, with the speakers from Frontiers Next Wellbeing, I would like to point out some of the speakers who are going to bring their amazing content, their great content to the conference. Speakers such as Michele Zanini, who is the author of Humanocracy, Marissa King from Yale University, Alessandra Rimassa from Changes. Alessandra was with us a month ago in these verticals, Francesca Gino from Harvard, Oscar Di Montigny from Be Your Essence, and Lara Cattan, who was today with us from Sparks of One. So, ladies and gentlemen, May 19 and 20, from our hubs in San Francisco, Milano, Dubai, and Riyadh, and streamed digitally globally in the rest of the globe, Frontiers Next Wellbeing. You can save your ticket, you can book your seat or screen at frontiersnext.com. Subscribe to our newsletter to get the updates and the news and the latest perks from the world of Frontiers. And this is all from Milano. Arrivederci.
Ciao.